Hello everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Wonderful Sunday afternoon so far. I do want to spend a few minutes before I talk about the miners, which is going to be CleanSpark, Mara, Bitfarms, CipherWulf, and IREN. A lot of them have dropped down a lot on Friday during this triple witching thing that has happened in the stock market, where there's going to be some increased volatility on that particular Friday when options and when people are trying to rebalance. As far as I'm concerned, there are some negative comments that would come up every once in a while saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, Bitcoin miners came down like 10%, 15%, whatever. Like I'm just like, come on, man. Do you even watch my videos? I care about trend. You're going to have volatility. You're going to have periods of consolidation. And I could very well be wrong. Like there are several things that are wrong about that. First of all, like if you have nothing to contribute, and if you're just here to kind of stir up crap, I would block you. There's no question about it. I would block you. I value different opinions. I have people posting on X, on YouTube, with different opinions, different questions. Happy to address them as much as I can. I am busy. I'm trying to make content, but I will try to address them whenever I can. But if you have nothing to contribute, if you're just being negative, I will block you. It's just like, if you're beating down a kid over and over again because other people are seeing potential in that kid, and you're going to their parents, going to their teachers, going to their coaches, saying, hey, why are you pumping that guy for no reason? He's not going to accomplish anything for their lives. You don't know that. So stop it. Anyway, I could very well be wrong, but I lean positive. And I just want to let you know that most people are also leaning positive too, because pretty much all my videos, I started this YouTube channel by probably around like February 2024. I would say, yeah, like mid-February 2024. It's been pretty tremendous success as far as I'm concerned. Like, I'm happy with where things are right now. Maybe every 5 to 7 videos or so I get like one dislike, but for the most part everybody's very supportive. Everybody's got really good comments. I might not be able to address to them all, so I appreciate y'all for leaving comments. I will try, but I can't guarantee I will get to all of them. But for the most part, people are very, very nice, right? I want to show you something. This is the top 20 holdings for my biggest stock portfolio. And the stock that I generally talk about a lot more, I have a stake in. So you can't really say that I'm completely objective, because I own them, because I am going to feel optimistic about them. And I could get things wrong. I've gotten SoFi wrong in terms of the price action over the last couple of months, over the last few months, really, right? I've gotten the firm wrong. I've been thinking that the reversal is going to happen sooner than what it's doing. It's just been kind of going a little bit down sideways for the last couple of months. I've gotten the firm wrong, right? But I do hold them. I am actually still adding to SoFi, Affirm, Tesla. I am also still adding to Shopify, right? But I talk about Palantir a lot. I have a big position in Palantir compared to the rest of my portfolio. I talk about IREN. I do have a position. It was small, but now it's made to my top 20 because of how well it has done over the last month or two, right? I do own a significant amount of Mara, CleanSpark, Robinhood, as well as, let me see, where's my Bitfarms? Right here, right? So I do own these, and I do have a small position in Cypher. I do have a small position in TeraWulf, right? So I'm not just pumping them because I'm pumping them for no reason. I have a stake in it. If I lose money, I lose money. In general, I don't like to be too pumpy on my videos. Like the one really pumpy video was one that I did maybe a few weeks ago, to like 2 months ago. I was talking about Mara going to the moon. I was more really coming from a perspective of like a cycle analysis type thing, using elite waves, using Ichimoku Cloud, using Bollinger Band, using different strategies to kind of look at things, right? I think that the cycles are continuing, and there could be a lot of volatility, and you can have a lot of plus or minus 10 to 15% moves, and they may mean not much on the greater scheme of things, because these are extremely volatile stocks. If you cannot handle losing all your money on them, don't be in it. That's the truth, right? Anytime these companies can go to zero, there could be some kind of scandal. You don't know, right? Like, if you cannot afford losing money, don't be in it. I just want to show you too, is it's not just me being bullish on these stocks. Institutions also being bullish on these stocks. CleanSpark getting close to 50% institutional ownership, right? You have increase in institutional ownership for the month of June. For Mara, it's greater than 40% institutional ownership. The spike of June is not as drastic as CleanSpark, but the trend is still up. Bitfarms, you remember how much crap I was getting about with my bullish stance on Bitfarms whenever price went to like 1.6, and right now price has gotten closer to like $3. I think it's probably going to end up stalling there, maybe even having some pretty insignificant correction, by the way. But look at the institution; they agree with me for the month of June. I mean, specifically, the institution is Riot. They bought a bunch of stock there. But what do I think about that? I think it doesn't matter where the price momentum comes from. I just care that there is price momentum coming. CIFR institutions significantly increased for the month of June before it breaks out of this $5.5 range. I'm going to show you that a little bit. TeraWulf increased institutional ownership, right? Still small, still like 24%, but it's there. IREN increased institutional ownership, right? So I'm here to basically, another thing too. This is the US money supply, M2 money supply. You had quantitative tightening. Everybody talks about quantitative tightening. Started around early 2022. And it ended in October 2023. So far, the trend has been just forming higher high and higher low. And right now it looks like it wants to form a higher high. Can pull up some of the stuff here. You can see that even if I put up the Ichimoku cloud, like it's still, this is a monthly Ichimoku cloud, it's still above the cloud, and it was underneath the Tenkan here, and now it's just reclaimed the Tenkan, right? Well, you can do technical analysis for these things. I can pull up Turtle Traders, Turtle Pro Plus, but I turn on a lot of the other indicators here, and I'm just showing you the EMA ribbon. The top is the 20-month EMA, the bottom is the 50-month EMA. And it just looks like it's back testing it. It hasn't really back tested it for a very long time. Closest that it got to it was like around the 1990s here, right? But all of it is, it just went way too far, way too fast, and it's just basically back testing it. And so far, it's looking like it's finding support over here. It's looking like it's bouncing above the EMA ribbon. So far so good, right? Like I don't know what else to say. If you have increase in U.S. liquidity, you also have most likely have a lot of increase in global liquidity. By the way, I think China's been printing a lot of money, and I think that's it's going to end up getting reflected over time, where smaller cap stocks may end up performing pretty well, even though a lot of people are scared about rates. Global liquidity is king. I care more about global liquidity than I care about rates, to be completely honest with you. But the liquidity has to go somewhere, and it's probably not going to Bitcoin as well as potentially its derivatives. I am still bullish on these stocks over long term, and let's talk about them, shall we? After an 8-minute rant, let's talk about technical analysis. What is technical analysis showing you for CleanSpark on a monthly? It is stuck in a range on the Ichimoku cloud. The bottom of the cloud, rejected for 5 months in a row. Is the 6 month going to be a charm? Is July going to be a charm? Is it going to end up closing above and actually go up a lot higher? You've consolidated sideways over here for about 4 or 5 months between the cloud and between the support down below. You had a bullish cross that happened in February 2024, which is favorable for bullish continuation. It's been doing nothing but forming higher highs and higher lows, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, right? So whenever it decides to run, it will run. It hasn't started running yet, and that's okay. I'm going to pull up the FCTX Plus over here too. You did have a little bit of cool down here for the month of June. The month of June is not over yet, right? But a little bit of cool down for whales here, or whalish momentum over here for the month of June. But that's okay, because the retail also look like they've just kind of gone down as well. The green also has decreased over the last 3 months. So I think what we're really doing right now is just basically just consolidating. RSI is not really like that overbought or anything like that. I think there's room for it to potentially go up higher. I think this move sideways has really cooled down these RSI from being close to like 70 down to like maybe 60. So I think that based on the trend, based on everything else, I think most likely the next step is going to be some bullish continuation, especially if the U.S. liquidity is increasing. I don't, anyway. That's my thought, and it's just my thought only. This is not an absolute or anything like that. On the bull in Japan, looks like it's just been way outside upper Bollinger Band. It's just been cooling sideways for a while, and it looks like the magnet is at the upper Bollinger Band, which currently, if you actually look at the price at upper Bollinger Band over here, is around 19.88. If the month of June end up closing close to the Bollinger Band up here, which I'm not sure if it's going to or not, then if it does do that, then I think we're going to end up having another month of being inside the Ichimoku cloud over here. If it ends up closing down to like 20, then you have a pretty decent attack of the Ichimoku cloud here yet again. And that could potentially signify some pretty decent things moving forward. If it doesn't do that, that's okay. We can go sideways. I don't care. It's, obviously we like to see a little bit more whalish momentum, but sometimes you go up higher and the whales leave temporarily. It doesn't mean that it's not going to keep going up, I'm still optimistic that it's attacking and is forming higher highs and higher lows. I'm still optimistic that CleanSpark is going to go up higher, and I just also told you why from the liquidity perspective. Weekly chart. What's the weekly chart doing? Well, it's just finding support down here at the bull support band yet again, right? And the Bollinger Band looks like it's about to squeeze, and it looks like it's about to blow one way or another. Could it end up going make a very, very crazy move upwards from here? Possibly. Could make a very crazy downward moves, and then potentially go up and form a little bit of a nice higher low, before going up further. That's also a possibility, right? These things can go like plus or minus 20% in the day, and they really, honestly wouldn't faze me. And I think that a lot of people are getting trapped when they bought up here, and you just need the consolidation. Like, this consolidation is absolutely needed all the way from like $2 all the way to like, what is it, like 24 or something like that. You need the sideways consolidation. You had a bearish divergence over here that needed to get worked up, right? And it got worked out. It went sideways and did nothing, and it found supported boomerang support band. And it's still finding supported boomerang support band, and the 20-week moving average is still pointing up, right? So another argument you might hear is, oh no, this looks like a gravestone doji candle, which signifies a top. These doji candle, if it's like a big giant wick of both, you can call this maybe gravestone doji. You can call it maybe like a shooting star candle, kind of like how the shooting star candle over here was like a little bit toppy, So yeah, look at it. That doesn't look like a great candle, does it? Looks like a lot of bulls are trying to push above and got rejected. Bears are trying very hard to try and get it rejected back down, right? Well, whalish momentum still there, still greater than 50%, right? Retail momentum is actually still not very high on the weekly. RSI has been reset. And if you look at this Ichimoku cloud, it's still just basically stuck in a range. It tried to break above the Tenkan, the blue line over here, got rejected back down. It's stuck in the range, right? It's still near the top part of the range, right? It's stuck in the range. So is this candle over here ornaments? Does it mean that it's going to end up dropping down a lot? This is like a toppy candle where I'm going to drop down to like 13, 12, things like that. Not necessarily. There's always a potential possibility of that happening, but it's not necessary, right? I'm going to show you a lot of the other, like, kind of these top looking candles that didn't work out. Like, was this top candle? Did it end up going that much further? No, right? Was this a top candle over here? Did we end up going down further? No, right? Was this a top candle where we end up going a lot further? No, right? So these candle patterns are somewhat helpful. Like, is this a top candle? The trees are top over here. Do we end up going a lot further? But not to a couple months later, So I don't know. Like, this is a top candle over here that end up working out, right? But you have so many other examples that don't work out, and also this is a bear trend too, right? So bear trend, these kind of toppy candles are more likely to work out. On a bull trend, these toppy candles, it's just basically going sideways. You have all these wicks down below, all these wicks up above. It's ranging. I don't really care, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of CleanSpark. If you also just look at the Fibonacci level, I think I also drew a Gann square over here. I'm just going to drag this back over here. If you look at the Fibonacci level, you also look at the Gann. that I've drawn, and I'm going to turn off some of the other indicators down below to give you a little bit of a better picture. Price just basically stuck in a range, right? It is stuck underneath a very important Fibonacci level, which is 0.382, and it ended up getting close underneath of it a little bit here, but that's okay. I think it also tries to push about the arc right here, which has been served as resistance, and also the horizontal line over here, which is also supposed to be served as resistance. And it's just been getting a little bit rejected 1 week, 2 weeks, right? But a lot of energy has been trying to push through, and the bear saw it coming, because if you're able to break through this confluent zone over here, I think it can go to like 27 in a hurry, which is a 0.618 Fibonacci level, and it can go up a lot higher, right? I mean, I've talked about previously, I talked about, you know, all these potential targets that it could reach if it breaks above all this resistance zone up here, right? Is that resistance? So could it break down further to like 11? You know, could it break down further to like $8? I mean, I'm going to favor that this is a bull trend, and I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, right? I'm going to favor that the 20-week moving average is still pointing up. So most likely it's going to favor bullish continuation upwards, right? There's no guarantee. Could it go back down to like 11.4? Sure, it's always a possibility. Can it go to 0? Sure, it's a possibility. But I favor bullish continuation, and I stated my case. At some point, you just have to put your money and your thoughts on the table, and you just have to stick with it based on what you're seeing. I'm seeing a bull trend, and I'm sticking with bullish continuation as my primary case. Now, a couple other things too. You know, once it's, I keep talking about, like, once you're able to break above this like 17, 18 range, and again, I think that's probably gonna, you know, end up doing that relatively soon over the next few weeks. Then you're talking about some of the higher range up here. The arc up here is like in the 40s, and the arc here like around the 100, you know, 120s or something like that. And you also have a line up here is going to be around like 60, right? A couple other important Fibonacci level. There's 1.618 level. That's also a very important level up here. Why is that potentially confluent with something here around the 1.618? Well, I would put up the Ichimoku cloud. The 1.618 is around like 67. The top of the Ichimoku cloud is actually not that far away from it. I can potentially see price pushing up there with the confluent zone over here, 1.618, and the top of the Ichimoku cloud, and end up getting rejected, go down further, maybe even go down to like the 40s before some further bullish continuation. If, again, all of those are contingent on if it's able to break above the current range, which it has yet to do. It's just stuck in sideways. That's the objective thing. And Bollinger Band on the weekly is squeezing, so it's going to pick a direction. So you pick a direction, I don't care. Right? I pick a direction, you should not care. You should make your own judgment. Going back to another one that I have been talking about a lot, and this one has been frustrating a lot of people because they keep seeing other stocks like IREN and WULF going higher, Bitfarms going higher. And look at Mara, even CleanSpark has gone up higher, even though you have a negative 10% drawdown on Friday on triple witching day. It's still outperforming Mara, you know, recently, right? So Mara has been frustrating a lot of people. What is it doing? Like, why is it not moving? Well, it is not moving because it is also stuck in a range. What range it is being stuck at? It's stuck at between the Tenkan over here, which is 20.63, is stuck underneath down here at 18.6, right? So it's just basically in the middle of a range over here. I have a little bit of a greater range. You look at the Ceviche cloud, you have a little bit of greater range. Up here is like 23.8, down here is around like 16, right? So you also have a very, very important range over here. It's just been ranging sideways. Whales haven't really left. It's still close to 50%, right? And there's going to be some resistance above. Like you're talking about, there's a Fibonacci level around 22. I'll show you that in a second. But the tank is around 20.64. Like if you 20.63. If you look at the daily price action, it's a pretty important level. Like if you just look at it, like on the weekly chart, there's also some confluence around, you know, like around the 20s, you know. But on the monthly chart, like you're basically just stuck in a range until it breaks out above like 20.6, until it breaks about 22 for good. You're continuing to end up being stuck in a range. That's just the way it is, right? But whales haven't really left, I guess is my point. Looking at the Bollinger Band, looks like it does have room to go up further. Maybe the month of July we might end up getting close to the top of the Bollinger Band. But so far it's just been consolidating sideways. So the Bollinger Band looks like it's contracting a little bit here on the monthly, but that's okay. Okay. But if you look at the weekly chart, it's really just been going sideways. So we're getting a little bit of a squeezing here for the weekly Bollinger Band for Mara. Wells, again, they're still in. It's still greater than 50%. They're actually greater than 55%. And the retails are still relatively, small compared to the wellish momentum over here. So on the weekly, it's just been trying to reclaim the bull market support band. And right now, price have ended up closing this week really at the bottom of this bull market support band, right? The bull market support band is flat. It's trying real hard to try and break through above. Is it going to end up breaking through above? Is it going to end up going down further before going up higher? I don't know. I think this is a bottomy candle, though. It's a very, very nice hammer bottom. So I really seriously doubt the price can end up going that much further below like 15 or 14. I also doubt that this gap ends up closing over here around like 13.7. It could. Anything's possible. It could go down and go to the lower Bollinger Band, close the gap and go up higher. Like anything's possible. But so far there's not. It's just been trendless over here for the last few weeks, and it looks like it's trying to reclaim the bull market support band over here. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. What about the Ichimoku cloud? What has it been doing for the Ichimoku cloud? Well, looks like it's just been trying to bounce from the Ichimoku cloud. Last week it looks like it bounced from it. This week it looks like it went inside of it a little bit, right? So is it going to end up bouncing up from here, or you end up having a breakdown of the Ichimoku cloud going down? Or you end up going to the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud around like 18.2 before going up? I don't know, right? But all I can tell you is if you look at the greater scheme of things, whales are still there. And if you look at the greater scheme of things, you had a bullish cross of the ticket indication back in February 2024, just like you had a bullish cross over here in September 2020, right? Just like you have consolidation here for a few months. You also have consolidation here for a few months, right? So sometimes all it takes is just, one big green candle to kind of reverse all of this stuff. But so far, it's just been going sideways overall ever since December 2022. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. I'm still favoring bullish continuation, although you're going to end up having some resistance above maybe like 40s. But after you break above here at like 20 to 22 range out here, you're going to have some resistance up there too, maybe even 24. So it's still working on it. It's just going sideways, consolidating, forming a nice bull flag. It's going to do whatever it wants to do. If you want to, you can stay out of it, or you can put money in it like I do, or you can short it. I really don't care. I honestly don't care. You see how the Fibonacci, the 0.236 and the 22 is some pretty important resistance here. It could potentially even go up to the angle over here and find support before pushing up higher, right? And you can see that the monthly Ichimoku cloud is also confluent with this arc up here. So you're going to see a little bit of resistance up here, most likely, whenever price ends up pumping through this resistance zone. Or if it ends up breaking down, it could go down to 14, or it could go down to 13, 13.7, somewhere around there as I was showing you on the weekly gap, right? Or it could potentially go all the way down to like 11 or 10. That's always a possibility. Would that still be a higher low? Yeah, it would. It would still be a higher low. But would that damage a lot of technicals? Yes, it would. So I think so far everybody was very, very bullish on the way up here, and it was looking very, very bullish on the way up here. But the problem is that if you end up chasing a move like that, after it pushes about the upper Bollinger Band for like 3 or 4 months in a row, that's usually not a very smart thing to do. But yeah, I think right now it's inside of the upper Bollinger Band. So actually the risk reward ratio is actually greater than what it was a few months ago when everybody was super hyped about it. So if you're able to break above the 2022 range, again, go into the 30s, 40s, maybe even like, in the mid 50s, right? That's going to be a confluent zone here. The golden ratio is 0.618, which is around 53. The horizontal line right there is around 55, 56. Right? If you're able to break above all the confluence resistance over here, then it could potentially push up to like 200 here in a hurry, right? We'll see how it plays out. I don't think I have any insider information in terms of what I think is going to happen. All I know is that institutions are accumulating. Whales still are having a pretty good presence. So overall, it's still favorable, but over the last few months, it's just been trendless. That is Mara. Bitfarms. Can turn it down here. Where are you going to see it in Bitfarms? Don't you see a higher high, higher low, higher high, and higher low? Doesn't look like a channel, just pushing things up. Don't you see whales are coming in? You know, I don't need any fancy indicators to show you that, but you did have a bullish cross over here, and price got back above both the tick and the kitchen. Looks like it wanted to attack the cloud eventually. I don't know if it attacks up here, it's going to be $5, or it attacks down here, it's going to be $4. If it attacks on sideways over here, just gonna go sideways there, it's going to be like $3, right? I mean, I don't care, you know, as long as it breaks the cloud eventually. But yeah, so far it's actually looking better than Mara, and I generally think that the price action of Bitfarm is very, very similar to Mara in terms of this morphology. So if you compare the two, you know, they both have like a inverted head and shoulder pattern, breakout back test kind of pattern to it. They both have that, you know, head and shoulder, breakout and back test kind of look to it, right? So they actually, I think Mara might just be lagging behind Bitfarms. I mean, hey, maybe Riot would also buy shares in Mara. I don't know. I don't really care about any of that. Price action wise, Bitfarms looking better. Whales wise, whale momentum wise, Bitfarms looking better. It's a pretty favorable stock still, even though it went down like 6%. And $3 range is going to be a pretty strong resistance. Why do you think that is? Because look at price action. Wick, and wick, right? Like $3 is just a very, very important zone. You have a big volume shelf over here, right? So $3 is going to be a pretty important zone to try to break. It's not surprising that it has not been able to break through this $3 range. And we might end up closing underneath $3 for the month of June. That would not be surprising to me at all. What else is stopping it from going higher? Well, it's just touched the upper Bollinger Band over here. It's going to be a little bit of resistance, although it's also going to serve as a little bit of a magnet here too, to allow price to go up higher. You have initial contraction. Looks like it wants to expand here a little bit because of this, you know, pretty decent bullish candle over here that we had for the month of June. So looking good. Weekly, whales increasing. Weekly, you remember what I was saying about how these kind of candles over here are like gravestone candles, gravestone doji candles, or shooting star or whatever. Yeah, you know, can price go down a little bit more because of that? Does it look like we have 6 weeks of going up? Does it look like we need to cool down after hitting a $3 price target over here and end up getting some, you know, initial rejection over here? How far is it going to go down? You know, you can keep talking about all these possibilities, right? But the problem is that this kind of gravestone candle, they don't always signify the top. They don't always have to work out. You know, it really depends. But anyway, it is leaning a little bit bearish because on a short term, because it's hitting $3 resistance. It's got a gravestone looking thing or shooting star looking thing. How far is it going to end up correcting? $2.50 lower? I don't know. Let's put up some of the indicators to try to find out. What are some of the indicators to pull up the Ichimoku cloud, right? Okay, so maybe like 3.7. You have the kitchen line over here can potentially serve as support down there, right? So maybe 2.7, maybe lower. Maybe the kitchen would end up catching up here to about 2.5. You could back test the kitchen, the Tenkan, sorry, the blue line over here, and before, you know, further bullish continuation, right? You also have a cloud down here around 2.2. I'm not sure if it's going to go back down that far. It could, but it would just be range bound if that happens. Or it could just, like any of these levels, like 2.7, 2.5, 2.2. I honestly don't care. I mean, at this point, like it still looks pretty good to me. Although short term, if you end up chasing this whole move up and buy like 3.3, you probably are not, you know, doing the best for yourself. But I think that the whales are in it, so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's see if we're able to push above, because it's not really that far above the weekly Bollinger Band yet. You know, I still think there's plenty of room for it to go up, although this does look a little bit of a toppy candle at a very important resistance zone, so we'll see. And put on bull run support band, it reclaimed that too, right? So again, if you want to try to find out some of the potential support level down below, maybe the bull run support will continue to rise up to maybe like 2.5 or so, and it could price action could identify support and go up higher, right? That's also another possibility. The Subiji cloud is a little bit higher, it's around 2.5. So price could potentially go back down to the Subiji cloud and go higher, right? So you have a lot of these potential support over here. I'm not going to sell it and try to buy lower because I really don't care. I mean, look at a monthly. I really don't care what it does in the short term. Like, it can really honestly go down like 20%, 30%. I honestly don't really care. Looking at the EMA ribbon too, on the monthly chart, you start to have the EMA ribbon 20, 50. Really start to show up. It's been flipping it from resistance over here to support. So again, there's nothing really like bearish about this chart as far as I'm concerned. You look at the weekly, you can see that, yeah, it flipped it from resistance over here to support, right? Broke down underneath a little bit, was able to pick back above, back test the ribbon, and looks like most likely it wants to do some bullish continuation with great momentum, right? Volume also has been very, very nice. So even if it goes down, maybe like, I think most likely it's going to go like 2.5 before going higher, is my best guess. Could it keep on pushing up higher? Sure, these candles are not absolute. You back tested the $3 level multiple times now. This might be potentially, we might have enough wellish momentum to kind of push back above, right? So I'm not going to try to trade these moves, although I see a lot of people seeing $3, about $3, 3.3, sell. Buy back lower. Institutions, what do? They come in and they set a floor price, So I think we're gonna have some floor price. They're getting back tested here. I just don't know how far further, and if this keeps on going up, I'm okay too. I really don't care at this point. Looking at the GAN that I have here, there's not really a whole heck of GAN resistance all the way up to maybe around like $6 to $7, to be completely honest with you. Once we break about this $3 level over here, which is I think is a important psychological level here too, but once you're able to break about the $3 level, you're really talking about potentially hitting like the 0.618 around $6. You're talking about the like $7 even up here higher, right at the horizontal line over here, and after that you're talking about maybe like $14, $15, $25 somewhere on the top of the arc over here. And if this bull cycle ends up going crazy and parabolic, I mean, who knows? It could hit some of the higher levels. I doubt it, I think most likely, maybe this arc up here would be like the absolute top that it could go. If it ends up waking above that to some of the higher Fibonacci levels, sure, great, happy. But I wouldn't. I would probably already sold out before it gets that far. So, Bitfarms, another couple things are in confluence with just the $6, $7 target over here. Again, $3 is going to be an important resistance zone. If you look at a monthly, I was showing you the Ichimoku cloud, right? So around like, I think around like $4 or $5 up here, you also have some resistance up here to try to break above. So we'll see what happens, but so far this chart is looking pretty bullish on the monthly. And on the weekly, short term, you might have a little bit of correction, but you also have plenty of support down below now that it could potentially backtest that and go up higher. I like how this move up here so far has been on increasing volume, and how the downtrend over here is on declining volume. So this whole thing right here really is telling me that it's probably more reaccumulation than anything else. That's Bitfarms. Talking about CIFR, I'm just going to be real quick here on CIFR. Whales are still there. It's gone down a lot on Friday, but whales are still there. And the basic thing is, like, you don't even need any fancy indicators to tell you what's happening here. With CIFR, it's just been trying to break about this $5 to $5.50 range up here for a very long time. This is an important level because before that you have a little bit of a wick over here and found support around 5.5, and then it kind of back tested over here after it broke down, failed and went down, right? Afterwards, this whole level over here around 5.5 has been the top of the range for a very long time. The range has been top around 5.5. The bottom of the range has been around like 2.2, 2.3, somewhere around here. And it's been getting closer to the top of the range than it does to the bottom of the range. It's been forming a cup over here, and it's been forming a smaller cup over here, and another smaller cup over here. It's been trying to bang on this 5.5 level over here for a very, very long time. Bang once, take a break, right? Got closer, didn't quite get there. Bang twice, take a break. 3 times, 4 times. Getting more frequent too. The harder it's trying to knock down a door, the more frequent trying to knock down a door, the more likelihood it's going to end up breaking above, right? You have a little bit of ascending triangle look to it, right? That's also a relatively bullish thing, and also just overall, the whales are still in. And if you also look at some of the other indicators, I can put a bunch of other indicators. Let's go with the monthly here. What is some monthly showing you? It still look bullish. You had a bullish cross, and price is still above the Tenkan and Kijun, right? So like, there's really not much to get concerned over here on the monthly chart. Whales are still steadily increasing. Retails are still steadily declining in terms of the percentages, right? We're still consolidating over here. The volume also shows that we're just consolidating over here. So nothing really like big warning sign or anything like that on the monthly. Bollinger Band continue to expand, trying to break above to the top of the Bollinger Band over here, right? And it's just been getting rejected. But the upper Bollinger Band is still pointing up. The 20-month moving average has been pointing up. It's been served as pretty decent support over here on the way up, right? I think the next move, whenever it ends up breaking above the zone over here around 5.5, it's probably go up to like $7 or $8 in a hurry, and after that $10, and after that a lot higher. Like, I don't need any fancy indicators to tell me that. The Bollinger Band is getting a little bit squeezier here on the weekly. It tried to break above the range up here. It's been failing, but it's still kind of on the upper part here on the Bollinger Band. And a couple other things too on the Ichimoku cloud. It bounced from the top of the cloud. It's trying to basically, it's just squeezing between the top of the Ichimoku cloud over here and the 5.5 resistance zone right above. It's just been building a lot of energy. I think most likely it's going to be pushing through it, maybe weeks to a couple months or so. I don't know when, and it ends up doing that. It's going to be pretty bullish, in a hurry. Right now on the week. Last week, we initially have a rising Tenkan over here, which could serve as a little bit of a support. Is 4.63. I think price broke down underneath of that, but who knows? I mean, this candle does look a little bit like a gravestone, like a shooting star type candle here, doesn't it? Kind of like how it was over here, kind of like how it was over here, right? But does that necessarily mean that that's going to be the top? Like, does it mean that you have a lot further to go before going up higher? I mean, honestly, I don't care. I ended up buying the move all the way from like 5.5 to like, I ended up buying like to the bottom of the range over here. And because I'm starting to see a little bit more support down below. Could it go back down further to like $4 or $5? Sure it can. Would it still look like a healthy bull trend? Yeah, it's still pretty healthy. Let me see what I'm seeing here on the EMA ribbon. The EMA ribbon also has been back tested. Looks like it wants to go higher, but we're just cooling off here with this big, with this bit of a rejection candle over here, and the expected zone. Seipichi cloud still above the Tenkan here on the Seipichi, right? So still a lot of things are still pretty favorable for CIFR here on the weekly chart, even after a bad week that we've had. Hopefully you didn't end up getting trapped here at resistance around 5.5 and buy that plus 13-14% move earlier in the week. But if you end up doing that, I still think that this is probably going to be some pretty bad short-term pain before some pretty nice long-term gain. If you want to hold on, if you want to sell here and buy back lower, you could do that. But I'm not planning on touching it. Looking at the GAN, there's really not much to say. You have a big giant resistance zone that's been trying to break above. This is also confluent with the arc right here, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's going to break above the zone very easily. It might even go sideways here for a few weeks to another couple months before breaking out above this confluent resistance zone. But once you're able to break above this confluent resistance zone, you're really talking about like maybe like $8 over here. You have some price history over here too, right? For that, you also look at the volume shelf, the anchor volume profile. Yeah, sure, $8 could be potential resistance, but the next thing you know, it's be like around $10. Which is right around the time where it like IPO'd or SPAC or whatever. Above that, you're talking about some of the higher levels up here around like 12, 13, 14, 15. even up here at the horizontal zone about like 17, 18. Could that be the top of the cycle? Possibly, right? I mean, could it go higher if it ends up going higher? What are some of the higher targets that it can end up going? Well, it's going to be the arc right above of that. If it ends up breaking above the current resistance, and if it's able to break above the high teens, then you're talking about potentially around like 40 something, 50 something, 60 something to end the cycle. That's entirely possible. Just like the move all the way up from like $15 all the way down to like 46 cents is possible. The other way is also entirely possible. Don't tell me it's not possible. It's entirely possible. Are they diluting? Yes. Are they buying machines with it and expanding the operations? Yes. None of this. Anyway, I'm just gonna leave that alone. So that's CIFR. Let's talk about IREN. What is IREN doing? Well, I'm gonna go through back to the monthly chart here. I'm gonna take off the GAN here, but I think you already saw that we are at resistance. So at resistance, you should be a little bit more cautious. But we are increasingly having high volume breakout of this resistance zone. You can see very, very similar to CIFR. Like, you don't need any fancy indicator. Look at IREN. You have a resistance zone right around like $8. It's able to break back above on high volume with increasing whale presence. This is probably what CIFR is going to end up doing maybe over the next couple of months or so. But it breaks above with increasing volume. And if you look at Ichimoku Cloud, you had a bullish cross. And if you also look at the Bollinger Band, is way outside the upper Bollinger Band, right? But the Bollinger Band is expanding. The lower Bollinger Band is like all the way down in the negatives. So this is the beginning of a very, very powerful bull trend, even if it ends up being a little bit too overextended and it ends up cooling down over here, or maybe even going back down to like $10 or something like that. That's still a very, very nice bull trend. And there's still potentially a lot more gains over the next, year and a half or so that could come to IREN because of how impulsive, how nicely bullish, both in terms of volume, both in terms of bullish band expansion, and both in terms of whalish momentum. There are a lot of great things going for it right now, but it could drop like 30%, and that wouldn't even like faze me. So be careful in terms of your emotional health. Be careful about what you want to do, because is there a guarantee that it's going to drop to 30% or even lower to backtest some of the levels? There's no guarantee. If you're a trader, would you want to take some off the table here and look for to buy lower? And if it's end up just pushing up higher from here, then you're just going to have to be okay with it, right? I'm just letting you know what could potentially happen. I think there's a likelihood that it could go down to like $10 or even lower. And that would not faze me. There's a 30-40% drop from here. That would not faze me a bit, and I don't care. I should care, I guess, but I just don't. I'm just lazy. I'm just looking at trend. I don't think this trend is exhausting anytime soon, even with like these crazy volatility, like 30-40%. I don't care. You have to think about what is good for you. If you want to ride along the volatility, great. If you want to take some profit off the table, that's great. I'm just going to keep holding on. That's just what I do. I'm not giving any financial advice, right? If you look at the weekly chart, it's already bounced for the Ichimoku Cloud. It's gone up higher. A very, very nasty kind of tweezer top look to it with this week and last week's close, right? But it doesn't always have to be the top. Sometimes you have a tweezer here. It could end up just having some continuation. So we don't know, but we are at a little bit of confluence resistance zone up here. I'm going to show you here in a little bit. And also just the fact that it's just like went way above the cloud here in a short period of time. Is also way above the weekly Tenkan over here. It might need to cool down sideways through time, or it might need to correct downwards through price before further bullish continuation, form a little bit of a higher low before going up higher, right? So something to think about. Again, way too far away from the bullish support band. It's just a very, very impulsive move. The volume though of this candle over here is declining, a little bit toppy. Just something to think about. Whales are completely in. You barely have any retail. But sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to end up having some correction downwards, right? Like the whales over here, significant bearish. You can have, things can change on a weekly in a hurry, right? On the monthly, it doesn't change that much. On a weekly, things can change, rapidly, right? So take this whalish momentum here with a grain of salt, although there is potential for it to go higher, but if it forms a higher low, that does not bother me. I want to make it very clear. Why is this a resistance zone? Well, it's at a 0.5 Fibonacci level in confluence with this bottom of this Gann arc over here, right? If it's able to break above, great. If it not, some of the levels down below here, 11.4, like around $10, you know, like this wick over here, around $8. All these are potential support down below, and there would still be a higher low. It could still be more bullish continuation. Could it just go sideways and just break into the arc and just end up breaking above all these resistance? Sure, there's always a possibility, but I would say, you know, it would make sense to kind of take some chips off the table if you want. I would not be over leveraged right now with IREN if I were you, but again, that's not financial advice by any means. The key thing is, though, if it's able to break above the current resistance zone around the teens, around the mid-teens, then you're talking about 22. Then you're talking about 30s and 40s. Then you're talking about potentially in the 60, and that could be the end of the cycle. If it ends up breaks above these resistance, right? If this is not the top of the cycle and just keeps going down further. If you end up pushing up higher again, break the teens, break 22-ish, then you're talking about the 40s and 50s, and then you talk about ultimately maybe like 63. That's probably going to be the top of the cycle. Could it hit some of the upper arcs up here? It's always possible. I don't want to be too crazy, right? We're at strong resistance. It's a little bit more of a time to be more cautious than anything. So I'm probably not over leveraged. I'm not adding to my position. If it goes down to like $8 or $10 or something like that, I might look into it. But I'm happy where I am. Finally, WULF. I'm going to talk about this stock here called TeraWulf. Going to turn off the Gann here. What is it doing? Well, it broke about this range down here around $3. Is going up to another range up here around $4, right? So $3 is going to be a strong range because it was support over here, turn resistance over here, right? We break back above that zone, which is good, but you also have a little bit of resistance around here at $4. And it's on high volume, whales are in, so all these are pretty good signs here for the monthly chart, right? And the monthly candle hasn't even closed yet, so could end up going back down, back test like $3 or 3.2 or something like that. Possible. But so far it does look like a breakout of a pretty important zone, and this also originally looked like a little bit of ascending triangle. Looks like it broke out of this ascending triangle here. So some of the other indicators, do you have a bullish cross yet? You do. You actually have a bullish cross over here. It's hidden behind the candle over here, but the Tenkan is above the Kijun, and you have a bullish cross here in June of 2024. I did not think it was possible to get there that fast when it was back in like, you know, February, January, when they were just way too far away from one another. But you have a bullish cross here in June 2024. It's promising. Could back test it, go higher? Sure, no problem. But I do think that overall trend is getting stronger. The bottom of the cloud over here is around like anywhere from $15 to $13, depends on where it hits, right? So that's the Ichimoku cloud analysis. Bollinger Band is expanding. It's outside upper Bollinger Band over here. Right now, the upper Bollinger Band is around 3.43. Price is around 4.16. So it could, I'm hoping the Bollinger Band continue to expand up, allowing price to go up higher. And anytime when prices are like, you know, a little bit way outside upper Bollinger Band, I'm usually a little bit more cautious. So I didn't really buy like WULF, because even if it went down like 10% Friday, I didn't really buy WULF because I just think that, you know, it's just a little bit like too overextended. I generally don't like to buy things that are a little bit too overextended. On the weekly, also looks a little bit too overextended, doesn't it? Like it's way outside the upper Bollinger Band, so I'm not chasing WULF at these levels, even though it went down like 10.2% on Friday. And this move going up has been on declining volume. You do have a nice Bollinger Band expansion. The 20-week moving average is pointing up. You know, Bollinger support band is around underneath, is pointing up, but it's a little bit too far overextended. So a little bit of correction down to 3.5, down to even $3 would not surprise me a bit. But so yeah, I'm just being a little bit more cautious here, just because of that. Doesn't mean that I'm not bullish, and I still have a small position. I'm still going to keep it. Same thing, right? If you look at the Ichimoku cloud, the Tenkan and the Kijun, they're rising, right? But you do have a little bit of a toppy candle. This looks like a little bit of a shooting star type top to it. If it goes back down and back tests like 3.4, 3.5 with the rising Tenkan, it's not the end of the world. If it goes down further to like $3, 3.2 or something like that, to back test the kitchen down here at the red line, not the end of the world. It would be forming a nice higher low before further bullish continuation. So we'll see what happens with it. But I personally did not add to TeraWulf because I do see that it might be hitting some, resistance zone over here. So what is this wick? What did it touch over here, right? Well, it's a pretty important Fibonacci level, 0.5 Fibonacci retracement levels from its high up here to its cycle low down here, right? And it went retrace half of the price and it ended up getting rejected. Not the end of the world. Could end up coming back down here to like 3.5, 3.2, or even like 2.9 or $3 for it to bounce back up higher, form a higher low, building a lot of energy to break through the arc over here, which is going to be anywhere from like 4.5 to 5.5 probably. And then above that is around $8. Above that is going to be around 12 to 13 or 14. Above that's going to be around anywhere from like 17 to 19, which is this line up here, horizontal line up here. Could that be the end of the cycle? If it ends up being a very parabolic bull cycle, sure. Could it go up higher to this arc right here? I doubt it, but it's 28, Right now we're at resistance. I wouldn't be that crazy. I'm more looking at maybe some of the downward targets. Maybe you're looking at some of the support again, right around 3.2, around 2.9 to $3, or maybe even 3.5. I think that's probably as far as the correction would go. If it ends up having a correction, it could go all the way back down to the cloud over here, to this arc over here. That's always a possibility. That would still be a higher low, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to try to like sell here and try to buy back lower. I'm just not going to over leverage. I'm not going to buy up here. I'm going to try to look for more position because I think overall trend is still up. Like the overall trend is still up. It just broke above the Ishimura cloud convincingly, and the Bollinger Band just started expanding. It's just a little bit too far overextended, but overall trend is up. Even if you look at the monthly, like the overall trend is up here on the Bollinger Band. Like you have a monthly Bollinger Band expansion, you have a 20-month moving average like very, very nicely curl up, right? So that's going to serve as support down here too, although I don't think it needs to go all the way down to like 1.7 or 2 to go up further, because this is a pretty impulsive breakout on high volume with a lot of whalish momentum here. But overall, it just looks very nice, and I think this bullish continuation is probably going to keep on going. I'm just going to sit on my hands and do nothing and tolerate these like 20, 30, 40% volatility as long as the trend doesn't change. Anyway, it's been a little bit of a long video. I hope you're okay. I just wanted to vent at the beginning. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.